Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 podcast. My name's Palm,
And I'm Andy.
and together we are Chrono Passion 7. Hello, and welcome to your favorite watch-related podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He is the editor of Oracle Time, one of the world's leading print and online watch platforms. And if you believe his Instagram handle, he's quite a fancy fellow. We have none other than Sam Kessler, editor of Oracle Time magazine. Welcome, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me. Hope you're having a good night.
We are. I'm hoping to have a better one after we've got to know you too.
Fingers crossed.
We can only try. So warm welcome, Sam, from my side.
Thank you.
Looking forward to getting into the show. But of course, before we do that, we need to know what's on your wrist. So what are you wearing today?
Oh, a little bit of promo. I am wearing the Christopher Ward Shoreline, which is the collaboration that we actually designed with Christopher Ward. Went out to readers, March last year. And yeah, great success, our first collaboration, and I'd have been a fool if I didn't pick one of the first 100.
Awesome. A great piece. I think that's one brand that's seriously making strides at the moment as well. Leather Grove.
I mean, I
Christopher
think
Ward
they
is-
hit it big time with the Bel Canto and have just been capitalizing on that ever since. Like the Lumiere from this year is, I think, one of the most handsome dive watches of the year. It's absolutely gorgeous. Massive fan. We had one in the office, and I didn't think we wanted to send it back.
No, it pops, right? It's got so much color as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably revisit maybe Christopher Ward a bit later. But Palm, what are you wearing?
So I thought, because I've got like my military style overshirt and a bit of a thick stubble, I'm going a bit Che Guevara today. So I've got my Smith's Commando, which was remade by Time Factors a few years ago. It's a 36mm field watch. It has convinced me that I don't need a 36mm Rolex Explorer. The 39 is perfect for me, but that's what I've got on my wrist. And Andy, new watch?
Yeah, so recent pickup, Rolex chronograph 1625. Really bonding with it. It does have a slight nick on the crystal. Other than that, it's absolutely perfect. But then that kind of, it's been bugging the hell out of me, is this little nick. So I'm taking it to my watchmaker.
Shows it's lived.
Yeah, it's definitely lived a life. It goes to my watchmaker though on this Thursday. He's going to try buff out the little mark, and hopefully we can get it looking good again. So that's it. Other than that, it's not been polished or anything. So if I can just fix that small little blemish on the crystal, it'd be superb.
So close to perfect.
Exactly, yeah. So close yet so far.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm wearing.
I've got to say, that's the favourite watch that I've seen Andy get so far. Well, actually, there's been a couple back in the day, but in recent times, that has
That's
to
a
be
pretty bloody high
my
bar.
favourite one.
Yeah, it's been...
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
he's,
don't-
yeah. He did have some really
it's
good
a
ones
whole
before.
episode, I think, my watch swapping journey. It's never ending, right?
Rental.
It's like renting.
Watch
yeah.
rental. But
I never actually own it.
so that's a beautiful watch, Sam. I remember seeing that when I saw you last at the. I met Sam at a Panerai event which was held by Oracle
Yeah.
Time in London. But getting to know Sam a bit better for the listeners, tell us how you got into. There's so many things you do. So I'm going to start off with watches and writing, and then maybe talk about your taste for the finer things in life.
Watches are enough stuff for me. Yeah. So watches, right. It's been well over a decade now, so it feels like forever. Slight caveat, I was kind of introduced to the watch industry when I was like 14, 15, because my dad is a watch journalist. So kind of
Okay,
following
wow.
in the family trade. If you ever see the byline Ken Kessler, that is no coincidence. He's old school, been around the block. Essentially, I kind of fell into the writing side of things. My first job in London was with Omega during 2012 on the marketing team, which was a great year to do it. We had the Olympics, we had Skyfall, the last good Bond film. So, good times. They do really good technical training at Omega because they need people to explain what the hell a coaxial escapement is. So when you're needing to do that level of knowledge. The rest of it kind of comes naturally. And I, throughout my time working in London, met the two owners of Oracle Time, Tom Pettit and Mark Edwards. They would go to events, I'd meet them there, we'd go to the pub afterwards, the rest is history. So I have been at Oracle for about 7 years now.
Okay, wow. And so the epicure in you, and has that been something you've always been into,
Yeah,
or
eating and
something you
drinking.
said?
I don't understand anyone that isn't an Epicurean. What is not to love about great food and great drinks? And admittedly, living in London does kind of spoil you a little bit there. There are great restaurants on every
A bit.
corner. And obviously through work, the watch industry does have worryingly high budgets for things like that, and I test them quite a lot. So lots of nice dinners and lunches. Plus, I'm a huge fan of whiskey myself, so I tend to go out of my way to cover a few drams here and there.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier you write about whiskey, but how did that come about?
That's just more passion project than anything else. One of the prerogatives editing a magazine is if I really want to insert a page on something somewhere, I can probably find room. So if I, for example, want to cover a really nice whiskey launch, yeah, there's a chance I can make that happen. And as you well know, whiskey and watches are not worlds apart in ethos and level of
No.
luxury. Nothing quite beats discussing watches over a nice dram. Oracle Time being a luxury lifestyle magazine, watches being a luxury lifestyle, I've had a chance to sample some very good liquids in my time.
There you go. You got the dream job there,
Yeah,
by the sounds
living
of
the
it.
dream.
I mean, it's stressful at times, obviously. I feel like everyone with a idealized dream job finds it stressful. I mean, a bit of background to the magazine, if for whatever reason no one has read it. We do 10 issues a year, and each of those issues is a big glossy print magazine. Nothing half-assed about it. It is a big luxury lifestyle magazine where we do our own photography, we call in watchers for review, we have expert content throughout. So it's an undertaking. Every issue is an undertaking. And while it's obviously an undertaking of passion, you need to work on your passions.
Yeah, I think we know that too well, right? You mentioned there, like you had a roughly like a decade within the industry now. What
Yeah.
would you say are some of the biggest changes you've seen over your time, and where do you see it going next? What's the next big change?
I mean, when I was starting, we were still on the ascendancy of oversized watches, and I can't be happier that that's bit the dirt.
Yeah,
I'm
couldn't
a
agree more.
man with slim wrists, so there's very few watches, if you go back 6, 7 years, that I could have gotten away with when brands were moving up to 44 mils as standard, that kind of overly macho, really unwearable stuff. That's obviously changed now. We've gone the full reverse. Things are getting smaller. Great. Otherwise, generally, it's become, in my opinion, a lot more diffuse. And by that, I mean there are a lot more independent brands or smaller brands at all scales. Obviously, this last couple of years, we've had Beaver, for example, and Horde Reeve, who do the amazing 44-day power reserve, something like that.
Yeah, and the
Um,
tourbillon, right?
don't quote me on that; it's insane. So they've kind of come about in the last couple of years at the top end and doing absolutely amazing stuff, equal to the classics. I'm not going to bother rattling off the Journe et al.'s right now, but at the other end, you have what 4 or 5 years ago you'd probably dismiss as micro brands, back when homage brands were the de facto entry point, where everyone was doing a Submariner with a Chinese made everything for 300 quid and putting a really fugly logo on it and calling it a day. They would probably sell a grand, flip it, done. Now there's genuine thinking behind almost every smaller brand I come across, and I am amazed at how many I come across and the genuine level of inventiveness that goes into a lot of these brands. Sure, there is still the occasional twists on the 50 fathoms and things like that that you kind of roll your eyes at. But in general, there is so much more thinking going into these brands that it's a genuinely exciting time. I also feel like for newcomers to the watch industry, it could be a bit overwhelming now. Back when it was LVMH and Swatch and maybe Richemont as the groups, you knew what brands you were doing, you knew who was advertising to you and all that kind of stuff. If I was coming to it now, it would seem daunting.
Yeah, you're kind of spoilt for choice at the moment, which is a great thing for an enthusiast. But if you
It
knew,
is, it is. And I think you just need to find that entry point and the gateway drug to get you addicted to spending way too much money.
yeah, unfortunately, I think it's quite easy. That's the problem. It's super addictive.
I get so many watches in for reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I cover so many watches. There's so many watches on my wish list. It is incredibly frightening. Also getting decision paralysis whenever I decide I am going to get something. So at the moment, I only have one watch I've got on my wish list, and that's it. Done. When I get that, I'll give it
okay.
quits
Can
for a
you
bit.
tell us what that is?
Yeah, if anyone out there has an Omega Pi Pan in steel, let me know.
Brilliant.
Constellation
Okay.
Pi Pan.
Okay.
Nice.
Had my eye on one of those for a while. Omega seems relatively untapped in the vintage market. So yeah, I think that'll be my next one. Then I'll save up for our next collaboration.
Very nice.
Excellent. So you're a bit of a vintage guy at heart, or a bit of both?
A little bit, a little bit. I
Yeah.
grew up with vintage watches. Before he was writing, my dad was a vintage watch dealer. So always had a lot lying around. He's got a few classics. He's got a few Pre-Vendôme Panerais, so proper old school and things
Nice.
like that. So I've had an appreciation. And actually, back in this time 2 years ago, my now wife proposed to me. She did so with a 1955 Jaeger-LeCoultre Futuramatic.
Oh wow. Okay.
So vintage watches do have a place in my heart, while I can appreciate the modern stuff as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're not too far apart.
No, 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 no. Um, mine's far less desirable on the grand scheme of things.
So we were talking about this earlier on, Andy and I, about when you see a brand, like you say, you're talking about the quality of the smaller brands now compared to previously. And I'd say we're relatively new, 5-6 years we've been around the enthusiast stroke industry level. And there's been a lot of brands, like you can get drowned in how many there are and just seeing how many there are. Once you see a brand, the people behind the brand and how they make the watches now, which is I think you were alluding to earlier on, you can't help but be impressed. Even if you don't quite get it straight away, we found that it resonates more when you have it on your wrist and you got the person who created it telling you all about it and explaining the actual what went into making it. And there are so many brands like that now off that high level. How do you, I mean, as editor of a magazine, I know you get sent press releases and you are sent a lot of stuff, but how do you pick out what's hot and what's not? What do you think is right? Okay, now that to me, I can see that being something special now and in time to come. Or how do you decipher what's what as the editor of a big watch magazine?
We define what's hot and what's not. No, it's tricky. Generally, it's whether it's something actually new. It's always going to be subjective at that level, especially when you're talking about independent makers and designers. They're always going to do it to a certain level, and that level is always going to be exceptional. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be getting a press release for them. That's if we're talking about the actual watch makers of the sort of, let's say, £70,000 and up
Yeah.
independents, that kind of thing, or less if you look at guys that are like Ondej Berkus, who does crazy stuff for worryingly little. So at that point, it's just if it resonates with you personally. And that's not a formula. That's not something I can particularly advise people on. If it's got a new approach to a movement, great. I can go into that. If it's got impeccable finishing across the board or things like that, yeah, I can talk about that. But I can't tell you if you're going to like a watch. And quite often, I will not like a watch, but it will be an objectively nicely done watch. And part of what we do is to try and step back and think about those things as objectively as we can. Now, granted, that's very hard. There are certain brands that have, let's say, tribe-like discourses
Yeah.
around them, but it's not my job to tell people what they should be liking. It's my job to tell them more about the watches that they like.
Okay. So what for yourself then what are the telltale signs to you that this is something that's a bit different and going to be a hit with a certain crowd, or is not going to be?
Yeah, I mean, generally, all I can go on there is whether I
Yeah.
like it,
But what is it? Is it the
which
movement,
again,
the
subjective.
aesthetics, the what?
Um, First and foremost, it's the aesthetics. That's always the major impact, and I'm sure there are purists out there that would disagree, but the fact is, you look at a watch, you're looking at a watch. You're not looking at the movement inside, unless it's a skeleton, which I'm not a fan of anyway. But that is the first thing that gets you, and how it looks is the design aspect of it is incredibly important. The movement is perhaps more where there's a story, a point of interest, where you go from liking the look of the watch to actually wanting to own it. Because obviously the looks lure you in, the substance inside is what makes you actually decide to buy it. Going back to someone like Beaver, for example, the new Automatique, it's a very, like, from the front, it's well finished, but it doesn't stand out perhaps as much as other independent watches for the 70 odd K price mark. But the finishing on the movement, not necessarily the movement itself, that's impeccable, but the finishing on every aspect of it, even the screws and stuff you're not going to see, is worthy of a story in and of its own right. Um, so I guess it's just about, you just get hooked on the looks and then have to dig a bit deeper to find a reason for you to part with your money for it.
Viva's a really good example. Actually, we did see those at Watches and Wonders.
I mean, that's a brand that was ground up designed for
Yeah,
collectors. Everything about it oozes of, like, right, we're going for the guys with big money and taste in big money watches. Um, Whether that's manufactured or not, who knows? Like, the watches are fantastic, but obviously Jean-Claude Biver is a marketing genius
he is.
first and
He is the
foremost.
best in the business. Yeah.
Oh yes, no man has been better at marketing a watch brand.
Do you compared to Laurent Ferrier? What's your? Because I find those kind of different but similar in a certain price bracket.
They both attest that less is more vibe, yeah. They're in similar price bracket. They're both very
The look as
restrained,
well.
very reserved, very, I think the phrase these days is stealth wealth, in that if you didn't know quite what you're looking at, you might just think that's a nice watch. It's not got a tourbillon on the front. In fact, Laurent Ferrier tend to hide their tourbillons inside. You just have this minimal brush dial, beautiful indexes. Everything is so painstakingly perfect, but nothing showy. These are watches that you wear to either appreciate them for yourselves or to sort of get the respect of a very serious class of watch collector. More like, rather than someone coming up being like, "Oh, cool watch, man," you just get a knowing nod from across the room at a restaurant whose waiting list is stretching into the
Yeah,
years.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Actually, it is that it's like an esoteric club. If you know, you know. It really is. But they're both.
If you
Yeah,
know,
I think they're
you know.
both very similar in a way, but again, very different.
Yeah, I mean, Laurent Ferrier's been around for a while now as
Yeah.
well, and has been a master of that less is more confidence for a long time. And I get the feeling that that is a brand specifically that Beaver Watches is aspiring to.
I can see a lot of similarities. Yeah,
It's a bit off topic, actually. Well, when I say off topic, a bit off my original question, but it's just made me think getting into these brands a little bit. Where do you sit with brands like Singer? Like they're more in the automotive industry originally, right? With Porsche, but where do you see?
Yeah, Singer, the Porsche Restomod guys. I mean, they made the phenomenal decision of working with Agenhor on it. on their initial chronograph. That's a workshop, I think Jean-Luc Viderich, who's been working on redefining chronographs pretty much his entire career. He did the Fabergé Visionnaire, if you remember that. I'm not sure if it's still around. That was a cool watch from Fabergé with the sort of central date and the chronograph. Yeah, that was awesome. So he's behind that as well. And for Singer to make a racing chronograph made a ton of sense. To get a cool, unique way of doing it, even more sense. My slight issue with that is they were just releasing different colorways of it for years. I know they've now got their first dive watch, which is actually really cool. I have not tried it on myself, so I can't really talk about it in any more detail other than it looks cool and the specs are up there. But they have always also been very expensive watches. I don't think there's anything wrong about coming from the automotive industry at all, especially when you have a diehard audience like Singer do for their Resto Mod Porsches. And you know those are the kind of guys that will appreciate a fantastic watch. It makes a lot of sense. Moving into dive watches, it's a trickier proposition. There's less of a link there, I think. But I mean, if you look at brands like Porsche Design, who obviously have taken a lot from the automotive industry over the years, that some of the things they've done in their watches, there was a crazy chronograph where you pushed in the case and that was the chronograph pusher. Stuff like that is very engineering led. Yeah, of course, there's a great place for it. And brands pull inspiration from other industries all the time. So, I mean, automotive probably most often and most obviously. So there's a place for anyone that wants to build a watch, no matter their inspiration, provided they build a bloody good watch.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, I was just curious to your opinion because it kind of, I don't know, I think we've been under radar and then suddenly became a lot more into the spotlight, I'd say, in the past year or so. It seemed to be a bit more
Oh, really?
spotlighted. Yeah, at least for me, I didn't know much about them prior to that. Maybe that's
Fair
just
enough.
my lack of experience in the industry.
I mean, mate, I just kind of went the other way because I saw their first chronograph a few years back, and then, I mean, Philips even had them in their store in Berkeley Square, and it just seemed like they were riffing off the same watch for quite a number of
Okay.
years. But they have always been low production, under the radar, kind of. If you know, again, if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are very striking. So once you see one, you probably don't forget it.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
So no, I get that
I just
entirely.
saw it on Instagram and it kind of clicked with me. I wanted to know more about the brand. I think the only other brand I can think of what connects to that industry crossover is like Leica, and again, that's kind of a strange
Yeah,
one.
the Leica is a really interesting one because I saw the prototypes 4 years ago now,
Yeah,
and obviously they didn't come to market for another 2 years after that. And they're a really interesting brand because they hew very closely to the cameras on the design touches, and they are really nice. And them I have tried on a multitude of times. They feel really good. They are also bloody expensive.
that's not
And
surprising though. With being Leica, right?
it's not surprising them being like, I mean, the cameras are
Yeah, we
eye-watering.
are.
So yeah, while it's not surprising at all, I do feel like they're kneecapping themselves by pricing them out of a lot of people that might buy them. But obviously, there's the issue of, oh, you've only got a Leica watch because you can't afford a Leica camera. Same as wearing a Ferrari branded leather jacket. Like, you bring prices down too much, you might have a few issues like that. So I think theirs is tricky, and I'm not sure how well those watches have actually been doing. They've been generally well received, but I think it's going to take a lot of people a lot of courage to pump themselves up to buy one.
Yeah, it's big bucks for a brand what's not traditionally within the industry. I think so.
Mm.
Yeah,
But they
interesting
have
one.
done an enviable job at bringing all that German machining into it.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to get a hands-on one. I think the look, yeah, I think it's more than meets the eye. Again, when you see the pictures, you're like, okay, it looks a bit kind of basic, maybe a bit monochrome. But I think once you get it in the hands, you start to appreciate
I
the
think the
actual level
finishing's
of
going to
craftsmanship
be really good
that
on
goes
those.
into those.
That's what you can kind of
Yeah, it's
see.
going to be top.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're fantastic. And obviously, they take a lot of the finishing directly from the cameras, and it all feels mechanically good. Um, Everything about it just feels really nice. And obviously, if you're buying Leica cameras, obviously that price tag's not going to make you balk. So, is what it is.
I did hear that. I mean, I didn't hear, but I was on a WhatsApp group, as we all are. The multiple WhatsApp groups are on that. Leica watches are normally just bought by people who own the camera. I've got a watch that goes with my camera.
Well, the kind of
Yeah,
people who buy
pay
the red
£50
button
for the red
camera.
button on the camera. But someone we know quite well, Sam, did buy that once.
I mean,
But,
is it even a Leica without the
Yeah.
red button? Come on.
Exactly that, right? Exactly that. Thank you.
I don't think any Leica.
you got to buy
I'm
the
surprised
button.
any Leicas come with it as standard. They just sell them separately for £100 and just be like, yeah, cool.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, I think the salesman took the rest of the day off once he sold it to Andy. He was like, right, guys, I'm going home now.
He tried selling me another Leica. Yeah. Like, there was a discount today.
Free buttons with every Leica.
Saw me coming.
Yeah. He did actually start pulling out what
That's
cameras.
Sam,
And do you want this one as well? He's probably thought this guy's going to spend £50 on a button.
Oh my god!
But interesting though. There's a lot of watches like that though. There's it makes you think these collaboration
Yeah, it gets you
watches.
thinking, doesn't it, a
Else
little
I mean,
bit?
not collaboration watches, but just companies that don't like Porsche. Yeah, Porsche Design as well. They've made quite an impact on the IWC. Started off, didn't they, with them? And
Yeah,
then
with the compass watch. God, we literally published an article on this issue before this by Tim Vaux, and I cannot for the life of me remember any of the details. But yeah, the compass watch they did with them. But then as a company, Porsche Design have had an impact on quite a lot of industries throughout the years. Obviously, Ferdinand Porsche was responsible for the 911, all that kind of stuff, and they're a studio who have been doing so many things over the years, like fingers in lots of pies. But yeah, they've always done some of the more interesting watch designs. Less of a brand at that point, more of a design studio.
yeah, and they got kind of a classic look to them as well. They're not trying to be too much of anything. I think they keep a very simple, clean but classic look. I think
Like
that
a
works
Porsche
well.
911.
Well, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Just
Kind of a
why
purity
this is
to
a
them,
question
yeah.
for yourself. Why do older watch,
It's-
a classic looking watch, a more retro looking watch? Why is that better looking than a modern watch? A modern watch works better. It does everything better, but it doesn't look better. Why is this? This is a big question.
And that's not subjective at all, right? That's
No,
categorically. They
that's the truth.
100%. It's empirical. It's empirical. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Older watches are
it's
better
decided,
looking.
yeah.
So there are a few possible reasons for that. One is safety. Obviously, designs didn't go crazy because their brands were a bit more worried about differentiating themselves a bit, like we were 10, 20 years ago, something like that. Brands didn't want to sort of step outside the bounds and stuff. And everyone had those sort of classic tastes, so everything hewed a bit close to that. But there is also a bit of survivor bias on that. The watches we see now that we're like, oh yeah, they're classics, absolute classics. Forget the fact that a lot of brands did do some crazy stuff. You riffle through Vacheron's archives, for example. They've got some weird designs in there. I've seen some crazy stuff at the hands of Christian Salmoni over there that I'm just like, yeah, no, that was never going to work. I think our sort of rose-tinted perception of those watches and the ones that are popular now are popular because the designs are timeless. They work now because they look good now. That's not to say every design those brands did looks good now. But at the same time, I'd argue that there are some brands doing those looks now, making modern watches that do still look at Baltic, for example. They cut their entire teeth on just building watches that could have been built 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
True.
For a fraction of the price. I think it's just more, especially in our current age of information everywhere, that there's more tastes being represented, there's more variance, and a lot of the times I would straight up disagree that watches look better.
Yeah, I suppose just the bad ones are forgotten, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you look back to if we're talking about watches from the 50s, for example,
Yeah.
They were all what we would consider dress watches today. So if you cut out everything else and just looked at dress watches, that's pretty much the equivalent. And I'd argue that dress watches have barely changed at all. I'd say there's a few more original touches to things, a few more strange versions of guilloche they weren't bothering with back there when it was just champagne dial or bust. But there's just more variety now.
Yeah.
To a degree, I think the one thing we've lost with being like, I'm obsessed with vintage, of course, but I think that the old fish scale, old gold bracelets where it's just kind of
Yeah.
gold flowing into gold, and I know it's probably too much for this era, and hence why it's not there anymore.
I
But
mean, no, it's the kind of thing that everyone wants to see more of.
yeah,
And I think we'll see a bit more of that in the next few years as well, because recently even Milanese and beads of rice
Yeah.
bracelets have become a lot more popular. You see a lot of
Yeah.
brands trying out more and more bracelets. I mean, if you look at the reedition Patek Philippe Ellipse, the bracelet on that, the sort of chain bracelet is magnificent. So I think, yeah, that's definitely something that was left behind that I think will come about a bit more.
fish scale bracelets where you
They're
just run
so
your
good.
finger.
They are. It's just, yeah, it's
You just
mesmerizing, isn't it?
you can't beat it. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
incredible.
absolutely
Like,
stunning.
why is that not here? The downside is the price now. So you can pick those up for like 5 or 6K in the, like, if you're buying some vintage, like if you're looking at AP or VC. But then if you move to modern iterations of that, like, you're going to be priced out instantly in most cases.
Yeah,
That's the
that
downside.
is true. But at the same time, there are enough third-party manufacturers for bracelets that you should be able to pick one up. It's just
Yeah.
they tend to be more concerned with what's more readily saleable than what's actually really cool. For example, can you imagine if someone just
Yeah.
started a brand that did nothing but those fish scale bracelets for a hell of a lot more affordable in every size? Like, sure, they probably wouldn't have as big a market as someone that pumps out thousands of NATOs a week,
Yeah.
but they would get a hell of a lot of sales just for doing that. I mean, I'd be quite high on the list. So,
Yeah, you talk about
you
yourself,
know,
Terry.
if anyone
Yeah.
out there is listening and really needs a business idea, you're welcome. Just send me some straps, yeah?
Contact Sam at Oracle Time. It's interesting you say that you think that's going to come back in the next couple of years. My own personal perception, and this is not gospel, which I made the mistake of saying earlier on. Do you not think that durability is key these days in modern watches and things lasting longer and not scratching and those fish scale they seem very delicate. Do you think that still fits into a modern watch? Something so delicate looking.
If it's a dress watch, sure. No one's playing
Hmm.
basketball with their perpetual calendar. It all depends on context there.
Well,
I mean, yes, I'm sure
Some
some
people are.
people are. Fools. Things like that will always find a market. Potentially, that'll be on jewelry pieces, which would be a little painful to see. Or potentially, it'll involve certain alloys and things like that that are cropping up now.
hmm.
There are a lot of golds that have been strengthened, a lot of everything that is now a hell of a lot more solid than it otherwise would have been. Ceramic is everywhere now. So you can machine incredible stuff that still fits the aesthetic bill and still at least maintain some level of ruggedness. Otherwise, yeah, just put it on a dress watch, call it a day.
Yeah, it's quite fancy, isn't it? So the dress watch is probably best.
It
It's a
is,
tough
and
one.
I agree that it's not going to be everyone's everyday wearer.
I think the issue is like going back to the vintage is the sizing. So if you want to pick up a vintage piece, you've got to make sure it fits your wrist.
Yeah.
Like this first question you got to ask before buying it, because it's just the gold's been cut and that's it, and that's how it fits.
Yeah.
So doing it in a modern iteration, you need to get that adjustability, what isn't present on the original designs. So that'd be the only challenge, get past that, and then you've got a winner.
Yeah. I'm sure someone far smarter than I can find out a way of doing that. I have seen some very cool bracelets over the years that get close. There have been some that just look completely flush from one chain to the next that look insane. So if there was a will, there would probably be a way. Otherwise, it would just be potentially a bespoke order kind of situation where you just say, look, I need this length of the strap. send it over.
Well, I hope they do it. I'd definitely be a customer. So
Yeah, seriously, so do I. I've got a couple old watches that would look amazing on.
It's something so special, and it's very niche though. And as you say, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I wouldn't have thought. What modern watches would they actually suit then? That's around at the moment. That's another thing, right?
that is a good question.
I mean, look, modern dress
Need to
watches.
design the watch for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's people have designed a watch for fewer reasons. Any smaller dress watch, of which there are copious numbers, countless long-standing brands could do archival reissues. It's not as if we haven't had enough of those in recent years. There are opportunities. Yeah, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And like I said, I've seen more and more watchmakers highlight the bracelet as an aspect of the watch's design, let's put it that way, than in previous years. It's never just it's on a 3-link bracelet. Now it's our logo is hidden throughout it, or the links are invisibly fixed here, or all of these different variations on the theme to differentiate the bracelet more than the watch from other brands. And I feel like that's an attention to detail that's filtering down across the watch industry for those ways of differentiating one brand from another, which, as more brands appear, is getting harder and harder and harder. The bigger the pond, the more your fish needs to shine to stand out. So yeah, while I don't potentially expect someone to do the proper fish scale tomorrow, I imagine someone trying out something similar soon. And if not that,
Yeah.
some other cool designs, some other cool, really intricate bracelets, or just other out of the box ways of approaching it.
Yeah, I really hope it happens. One brand what springs to mind, and curious if you guys agree. I think Furlan Marie could do that.
I
They're
was
going for that
thinking that with the
vintage
Marie could
design
do
look.
bloody
Discovalente.
anything,
Yeah,
mate.
I was actually thinking Furlan
Yeah.
Murray. Yeah,
Exactly. It's already there.
Yeah.
It'd work already.
It would work really well, and they're just audacious enough to do anything.
yeah.
I mean, bloody secular calendar, the perpetual calendar they've just launched on the back of the secular calendar, which was insane, beating IWC to the jump on that
Yeah.
one. They can do whatever the hell they want. I don't know how they've gone from cheap but cool quartz vintage looking watches to a genuinely phenomenal perpetual calendar that restructures how a perpetual calendar works. Like, I think the entire perpetual calendar assembly is 20 components.
Okay.
That is insane. So honestly, yeah, anything they want to do, go for it,
Wow.
guys. You've Furlan Murray, you have my blessing.
Definitely one of my favorite brands, but the Disco Volante was definitely one of my, if not my favorite watch this year. And actually, that sort of leads me into another little quick question on.
Don't ask me that question.
No, it's just because Oracle Time
Go for it.
have sent out. Please vote for your favorite watches of the year, and for dress.
Yes, our annual awards. This is our
Yes.
3rd year running it. It is, before you judge me by the shortlist, every single watch nominated was nominated for by our readers. We have absolutely no say in what goes into the shortlist there. That
Right.
caveat very firmly laid down. There are some fantastic watches in that lineup, and it really made me realize, yeah, there are a lot of good watches this year. I think it was a safer year than other years for sure, but that just means it's kind of harder to decide what is really looking good. So yeah, I would suggest anyone that has a strong opinion on watches. Oh, never mind. By the time this goes out, it will have closed. Voting will have closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Forgot
So
about
you can tell us what your favorite ones are then.
that. Let's see.
Let's all go round.
I
Should we do a
mean,
round robin, shall we? So let's just say in 2024, what was your favorite dress watch?
I really did like the Beaver Automatique. Where that was my favorite, I'm not sure, but that's the first one that springs to mind. Probably that. I think it was absolutely phenomenal.
Andy, yourself?
Yeah, the classic moon
Yeah.
by Laurent Ferrier, absolutely incredible with a blue enamel over the moon.
I did love everything Chapek have been doing this year.
Yes.
Promenade, I'd say the Promenade. I'd say that's my favourite dress piece actually from the year. With a water droplet, with a focus around the seconds. Yeah, fantastic.
I mean, I've not seen anything quite like that. That was an insane dial. Absolutely beautiful. The three-dimensionality on it was in absolutely insane. Xavier knocked that out the bloody park. I think that was one of our highlights of Watches and Wonders, actually. It was amazing.
Really. Okay, so let's go to chronograph then. What do you reckon would be the chronograph of the year?
I mean, everyone went crazy for the Tudor Black Bay Pink, but that's definitely not my favorite.
Yeah, I don't like the reasons why they went crazy for it. No, I like
It's
the
just a
fact they
Tudor
did
and
it.
it's pink.
Yeah, and it went high in price. It just got hyped, and everyone jumped on it.
I mean, there are a lot of really restrained chronographs this year. So I'm split between two. Accessibility-wise, the Raymond Vale Milsim Chrono, lovely watch, killed it. Chronograph version of the Milsim, yeah, not much more to say on that. Absolutely great watch from a brand that needed a marquee collection like that. I think it worked really well. But if I was just going to get one, it'd probably be just the Moonwatch with the white dial.
Yeah, that's mine
I
as
know
well.
yeah, I know. It sounds so
It's so.
boring.
I know it sounds terrible.
It is crisp, it is clean, it is gorgeous. I would never not want that watch.
Yeah, I voted for that as well. I actually voted for that in the Oracle Time Chrono section. Yeah, as
Oh,
for
really?
watch chronograph of the year, actually,
Okay.
because it's just in a world of people trying. Look at this, look at that, look at this one, look what we're doing here. But all they did was made a white Speedmaster. But they did make the kind of the step dial and the indices. They did do some slight improvements to it, and just that crisp, like you say, the crisp white dial and the red Speedmaster, it just worked. All of it just worked.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. It just bloody worked.
Yeah.
There's not much more to be said about that.
I'm a bit afraid to say mine now because I want to throw a curveball. And I think Pam might be on my side, but Sam, I don't know if you will be. One of the most fun chronos I tried was a Hublot Big Bang orange ceramic. I thought that was really fun. I
I'm
really
cool
liked
with
it.
that. There, when I was saying
Okay.
divisive brands
Good.
with tribes earlier, that's kind of what I meant.
Okay.
I like some of the Unico stuff. Yeah, that's completely fine. If there's nothing really quite like it, and we actually shot the in the latest issue that Palm has there, we shot the yellow ceramic, and it just looked really cool.
I think their ceramic is superb.
Yeah, the
It's liquid.
few brands have done ceramic in quite that clean, crisp, glossy way than them. And with the sort of black bumpers and crown and everything, they do well. It's cool. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Not my favourite, but unlike Palm, I don't have the say on what looks good.
Yeah, you don't have the final word. Yeah, the final say, the last word on Chrono Passion 7.
You heard it here first.
He edits for podcasts,
Yeah,
so it's always
going to be all about me.
go his way.
Everything, all my picks. But I'm surprised, Andy. Though I thought the Le Bois would have been yours. Was it Le Bois, the vintage looking?
Yeah, Le Bois Co.
Yeah.
Right. I really like what they are doing. Excellent Breguet numerals, gilt style dials, superb.
Yeah, my slight issue is I always feel like Baltic could get there first.
That
But
is
the
true.
Le Bois & Co. Chrono is a very nice piece.
It is. It's a very, very nice piece. I'd love a hands-on with that as well. Like I did get a quick hands-on at Geneva Watch Days. But yeah, I just fancied going all out. So if money wasn't no issue whatsoever, I'd definitely buy the Big Bang and just be out there ostentatious.
That's fair. If you're going to go
That's what
Big
I'd go
Bang,
for.
get the chrono. Give it as much wrist presence as you
Yeah.
can. Feel the weight of that money.
Exactly that.
All right, cool. So too many dive watches to go into. I think the show will go on for about 3 hours if we start talking about dive watches. But do you have one off the top of your head? What was your favorite? I think I know I think you mentioned it earlier on.
Yeah,
actually,
the Trident Lumiere.
From Christopher
Yeah,
Ward.
I think that's I gravitate like a moth to bright colors, and that's one of the brightest brightest oranges I've come across. I think it's really cool. The dark grey bezel with it. Their whole emphasis on loom is cool. I like it a lot. Their loom's particularly bright. You saw it in things like the Moon Glow. It's awesome. The slim bezel gives it a nice retro feel. It feels great on the wrist. For me, it ticks every box. I think the only watch that I was potentially more excited by was the Zenith Revival piece,
The orange one.
the Plongeur. It didn't actually make it into our shortlist somehow, and it was one of my favorite watches of the year. The proper retro one,
Okay.
the actual Revival, that was supremely cool. Very off kilter. Didn't look like your classic round dive watch. Absolutely love it.
What about you, Palm?
I actually liked the Oris Diver 65, the LFP, the French Professional Football League of
With the
France,
Friends
or
logo.
whatever it stands for. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does look
Try
like
and
that, doesn't
unsee
it?
it
Yeah, with
now.
the
I may have
scroll.
ruined
Yeah,
it for you slightly.
I like Friends, so
Yeah.
that make me want to buy it even more. So I think it was 39. It was this nice small size. That blue was like I don't know if they call it a petrol blue, but it just looked so good. Such a deep, calming kind of blue. Just on pure aesthetics, to me, that was the one I liked the most. And it felt really good on the wrist because we tried it on at Geneva Watch Days.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that's the one for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot. I'm going to throw another curveball, but not too much of a curveball, I don't think. But it's not one what we tried on one of our Geneva adventures. It was one which I tried at a Red Bar event over here. And it's the Tag Aqua Racer, which was released this year, like a slightly
Yeah.
refreshed iteration. I think it's great and incredible value.
I think Palm brought it up on one of our covers.
I think they're excellent. Like, I think the value is absolutely superb.
Yeah, can't
I
argue.
think it's a cool
I
looking
can't say
watch.
it's a watch I get excited about, but it again kind of ticks every box.
Yeah, I think it's more. Is it one what I'd gravitate to buy? Maybe not. But do I really respect the watch for what it offers for somebody entering the
Yeah.
hobby? I think that's hard to beat. So I think, yeah, show a bit of love there just for anybody who's a tag fan. I think it's a great piece.
Yeah, I think it incorporates too many other designs, but I do
You've
like
got the wave dial going on, right? And
You have the
and it is
best wave
I have the
dial.
last word as well.
You have the
yeah,
best wave dial from a
Yeah, so
major
it's-
brand.
The Aqua
Yeah,
Racer.
it's hard to call it derivative when it does it better.
I think it looks good. That's
It's
fair.
true.
Yeah, it's fair. I think they've incorporated the date very well, like compared to previous
Yeah.
versions as well. It was like the way it was a bit awkward, the marker at 6, and now it's kind of like a little dash instead, and everything fits a little bit better onto the dial. So you can see the attention to detail is there, even though it's more of an entry level piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a top value piece.
Good value, definitely. It's a good watch. I mean, you can't go wrong with these watches, any of these watches, because Tag's a good brand. They make good watches.
Yeah, I mean, I love the glass box Carreras as well. I think they
Yeah.
nailed that. That was one of my favorite watches last year. Huge fan, especially the really colorful Skipper version with the
Yes, that was
regatta
really
version.
cool.
That was just insanely cool.
That was surprising as well, and it did well. Sometimes I think not so much the media, but the critics, can be quite harsh on Tag. But the Skipper was so well received all round. I don't think I heard a bad thing about that Skipper.
Well, in the last couple of years, Tag as a brand have just been doing so much better than they used to. They've seemed to be making more sense than they used to. And everything they do is just a little more considered. Like, for example, the new Aqua Racer. It doesn't think too far outside of the box. It looks at the previous Aqua Racer, fixes a few issues, and just gradually improves on it. And I think that has done them a world of good than just trying to come up with some crazy stuff like, I don't know, lab-grown diamonds on a dial.
Yeah. No idea who that is.
That was crazy. Or a pink version.
Yeah.
Bright pink, shocking pink, Barbie pink version.
I'd have a Barbie pink Tag Carrera. I would have that.
Oh, the little 36 mil.
I'd do the Barbie watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
I'd
got
do
that
that.
one as
Why not?
well. I was genuinely surprised how much I loved it. Like, I would
There we
wear
go,
the
see?
hell out of that. Unfortunately, I've got too many pink watches, so
I think it's really cool. I know Palm's going to cut that out. I saw the disagreement in his face. So
No. There are pink watches I like, but I just think that was
yeah,
a bit
you didn't
too.
love that one.
I didn't
Yeah,
love that
fair
one.
play.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a bit too out there.
Yeah.
I thought.
So edit it
And I
out.
have the
Okay.
final say, and I have the final
the
say,
final
last
say and
word
taste.
on
Yes,
Chrono
yes,
Pass
yes,
7.
yes.
Right, I think that's all we have time for today. It seems like we've just started talking. It doesn't actually seem like
Have we not?
Sorry, say that
Have
again?
we not just started? I'm pretty sure we just started.
I think we have. I think we just started getting warmed up
Yeah,
there.
we haven't even gone into the meat of the subject yet.
The subject is Sam, and we need to hear more about you and your passion.
Before we wrap up, then, just a little bonus. As I'm here and I can offer things, we have a little discount code for anyone listening. Chrono7. If you type that in at checkout, you'll get 10% off a subscription to Oracle Time.
Oh, excellent! There you go. So go to, and the web address is
oracleoftime.com. It's oracleoftime.com, and yeah, go there, type in Chrono7 at checkout to get 10% off a annual subscription of 10 glorious print editions of expert, thoughtful watch content. Just don't look at me.
And I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Superb.
Ignore that. Yeah,
It's not been
but
updated
I can
for
vouch
years.
for that.
I'm way better looking than that in real life, as you can hear.
I can guarantee that. Yes, he's the voice of a male model. The
face of
I can vouch for that.
At least you didn't say female model. So.
But I can vouch for the magazine being good. I'm not saying that just because Sam's here, but I actually am very impressed with the magazine. Has some very interesting articles, not just on watches, primarily on watches, but some of the other little bits and bobs that us watch enthusiasts seem to be drawn to as well.
And just another quick note that Palm can also attest to, we have also started doing some readers events, and we will be continuing those in the future. I believe, Palm, you're already signed up to our next one. So yeah, anyone that subscribes will get the invites to those. It'll be exclusive evenings with some of the best watch brands in the world, where you can talk about watches, try on watches, drink nice glasses of champagne, or in our case, some decent whiskey, and
Negronis.
Oh, so many Negronis! My God,
these events are good. What we're trying to say, these events are good. Sign up to Oracle Time, use the Chrono7 discount code, and get yourself on that list because the events are really good. I'm one of the reasons I'm a bit biased because I actually won the raffle. There was a panel I won a few weeks back, and I won the raffle. So I've got a one-to-one watchmaker session coming up in the next couple of weeks. So that's not the main reason why I'm saying it, but it's you have the opportunity to win something like that as well. So
it wasn't bribery.
No. It was all planned, staged.
I saw Sam handing the guy that picked this one out. Yeah. No, that didn't happen. It was pure chance. And thank you very much for that, Sam. Great event. And get your name down. So, Andy, you want to lead us out the show?
Yeah, you know what we haven't done? We've not plugged our website all the way through this episode. That's pretty bad form.
I was doing too much plugging for myself.
So, also visit www.chronopassion7.com for all of the show notes. So, all of the pieces we've spoken about today, which I can remember, will be on the website. So, if you want that best audio visual experience, make sure to tune in as you listen along to the website. So, as always, that is my classic sign off. So, yeah, hasta luego and adios from Barcelona. And I'll speak to you all on the next one.
And as Andy says, farewell from Barcelona. And Sam, would you like to say farewell to the listeners from uber cool South London?
I don't know about uber cool, but as I sign off every editor's letter, stay safe, stay sane, and have a good evening.
And from me, from West London, It's Toodle Pip and laters, and we'll see you, and you'll hear us in the next one.